Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And hello, everybody, once again to another edition of the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. I am Juice Springsteen here on this Friday before the weekend that will be WrestleDream 2025, the AEW pay-per-view with its third annual WrestleDream show. Before we dive into the predictions for WrestleDream 2025, emanating from St. Louis, Missouri, you can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. Subscribe to this podcast on YouTube at JuicySteen, and you can also subscribe to this show on Apple Podcasts via iTunes. Listen to it on Spotify, Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com, and if you do listen to it via Apple or Spotify, please leave a rating and review. It will help the show grow. As I said, this will be the WrestleDream prediction show. Before we dive into that, which I'm going to go solo for this show. Normally I have some people coming in for predictions. We unfortunately haven't had Josh Eisenberg for some of our WWE shows recently, but hopefully he'll be back into the fold come Survivor Series. We actually will probably do a show for Saturday night's main event as long as everything holds up. Additionally to that, I do want to plug some things I've been on. I was on the Shining Wizards podcast this past Monday talking Halloween Havoc, talking Crown Jewel, Bound for Glory. A lot of interesting topics I ran down with the guys on the Shining Wizards podcast. Love anytime they feature yours truly. Also made an appearance. Drew and Juice was featured on the Wrestle Purists YouTube channel this past Thursday, where we discussed John Cena's final match, the ticket sales being insane. Just for the pre-sale, we talked a little Seth Rollins injury, Chris Jericho news and notes, and who might John Cena face when it's all said and done, including another little tidbit on the Bound for Glory tables match featuring the Hardys and the Dudley Boys. So that has been where I have been over the last couple of weeks, in, out, all over the place. Looking forward to whatever comes down the pike next. WrestleDream predictions this week. Next week, not sure. Probably just a regular old Juice Box episode. And then we will have probably Saturday night's main event, the preview predictions show, the following week as we head into November. But for now, we are in October. And for AEW fans, that means one thing: WrestleDream. This is the third WrestleDream show to reference Antonio Inoki, who Tony Khan had referred to as wrestling's greatest dreamer. This show tomorrow night in St. Louis, a tribute to Lou Thez and pro wrestling in St. Louis, which I enjoy. Starrcade 90, I believe, was also somewhat of a tribute to those old school, events that would take place. I think that took place, if I'm not mistaken, in the Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis. So Starrcade 90, that's a show that I've touched on in detail in the archives here on the Juice Box. But we're here for the current. The current is WrestleDream 2025. 12 total matches, 4 on the quote pre-show, which I believe is the Tailgate Brawl. I want to say that what they're referring to it as, but some good stuff across the board here. And we're going to run it down. Let's talk about the pre-show. FTR taking on Jet Speed in a tag match. Without Cope and Cage on this show and in the fold, kind of just, doing their own thing, taking some time off for whatever. I think that FTR will get this win to kind of further what's going to happen when Cope and Cage inevitably return to AEW. But I do anticipate a good match. And hell, if Cope and Cage are going to take a little longer to come back, maybe Speedball and Kevin Knight get the win. Maybe Jet Speed do pick up a victory against FTR. Eddie Kingston and Hook will be taking on an unknown, a to-be-announced team. Who knows who that will be, but we will find out sooner rather than later. I have a feeling that no matter what, Eddie Kingston and Hook will be the winners of that match. Harley Cameron, Willow Nightingale taking on Megan Bayne, Penelope Ford, and their team name is now Divine Vanity. Look, I'm a big Megan Bayne fan. I'm a big Willow Nightingale fan. Harley Cameron has done a lot on screen as sort of a, not necessarily just a comedy act, but for sure she's incredibly entertaining on the mic, and I can easily see her sticking with the AEW in a prominent on-screen role for the foreseeable future. With Megan Bayne, I kind of think that, if this was a one-on-one match, I think Megan Bayne would get the win, but honestly, Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron, I feel like, are going to pick up the win in this match. 8-man tag to close out the pre-show. Roderick Strong and the conglomeration, Ishii, Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, taking on the Death Riders, Pac, Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio Castagnoli. This is an interesting match. Depending on how the Jon Moxley match goes, I tend to think that hinges on what the Death Riders do. To me, I think the Death Riders should win this match, but I'm not so sure that's going to be the path that AEW takes. I kind of think that due to what I can conceivably assume that is a loss for Jon Moxley, that you'd want to kind of balance that out, and we could get a win by the Death Riders before the main show. Speaking of the main show, let's dive in. 8 matches on this card, 2 women's matches, and there's a trios match on here, a tag team match for some cash, a tag team match for a title, and other title matches, and then what I think should be the main event of the show would be an I Quit match. No title, just, I guess, bragging rights. Let's get into it. Tornado Trios match, The Demand, which is the GOD and Ricochet taking on the Hurt Syndicate, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley. I think it's going to be a fun trios match, and it's Tornado rules, so anything goes. And with these rules, give me the Hurt Syndicate to take this one, pinning Ricochet and moving forth in regards to the Trios Championships. Maybe that's a match you have on Dynamite in the future or even on Collision. But I definitely see the Hurt Syndicate attempting to go for the Trios titles sooner rather than later. Jamie Hayter taking on Thekla in a singles women's contest. This is a unique match, and I think it's going to be a good contest in ring. For story-based purposes, I would like to see Jamie Hayter get the win. I'm not so sure she will, but I'm predicting that Jamie Hayter is victorious and will get another crack at the AEW either Women's World Championship, maybe the TBS title against Mercedes Moné, who is not on this card, but maybe she'll make an appearance. Who knows? So give me Jamie Hayter to win against Thekla. AEW World Tag Team title match, Brodito takes on Okada and Takeshita. This is pretty clear to me where this is going in regards to Takeshita and Okada. But the real question is, when does the inevitable breakup take place? There has been controversy. There have been ups and downs, including this past week on Dynamite, where the Don Callis family is sitting at a table, and Takeshita is shown on the video screen wishing Don Callis a happy birthday, talking about the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, which he did end up winning. Congratulations to him. Yet Okada accidentally, quote unquote, shut the TV off and said he hit the wrong button. But we all know that this is probably leading to maybe not necessarily a breakup, but I could see Okada and Takeshita getting in each other's way during the World Tag Title match and costing them the match. However, I also think there's a unique avenue to be taken where Okada and Takeshita win the AEW World Tag Titles and still have an animosity where they want to go against each other, and you have a friendly-ish rivalry. But ultimately, I want Takeshita out of the Don Callis family. I think he could be a brand new babyface for AEW that could really, really, evolve into one of the top stars with Strickland out, Swerve Strickland out, with Will Ospreay out, and some other guys just not being there. MJF not being on TV. You need new characters. You need new baby faces. Really, there's plenty of heel work to be done. I like Takeshita as a future babyface for AEW. So I think Okada and Takeshita should not win the AEW tag titles. Something should go wrong and lead to some, interesting conversations, but ultimately getting that Takeshita Okada one-on-one match for the unified title, potentially on an episode of Dynamite, maybe Blood and Guts, but if not that, then Full Gear in November. But who knows? But give me Brodito to retain the tag team titles. Another title on the line. Kyle Fletcher defends the AEW TNT Championship against Mark Briscoe. Man, I'm going to say this. I think no matter who wins between Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe, that MJF will make an appearance in this match or after this match. With Briscoe winning the match against MJF at All Out, I kind of think he's on the trajectory to win the AEW TNT title. However, Kyle Fletcher is on a run, and I'd like to see him go through Mark Briscoe, have to take on an MJF. Maybe MJF gets one up on Kyle Fletcher and, ruins that run. But I think, and this is no offense to Mark Briscoe, but I think an MJF winning the title from a Kyle Fletcher helps all the people involved, including the championship. The title would get a little even more prestige. Kyle Fletcher could maybe go a little further in the main card of the show, and I don't know necessarily if the world title's in Kyle Fletcher's future here necessarily so soon, but I do wonder if the TNT title is just the ceiling, or if there's a little bit more juice to squeeze. And if that's the case, I'd like to see him lose this title at some point sooner rather than later to then jettison himself into the main event picture. But ultimately, I will have Kyle Fletcher retain the AEW TNT Championship in probably a really strong match against Mark Briscoe, like both of those guys. Jurassic Express take on the Young Bucks. Winners receive a $500,000 cash prize. This is very interesting to me. This is, we're 6 years into the AEW run, and this really comes off as a absolute old school type AEW match. Even though they've only been around 6 years, it's a classic. It's a throwback match to early AEW with the Young Bucks and Jurassic Express. And I really like that dynamic. The return of Jack Perry as Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus being involved once again, back off the health issues he's had. I'm really excited to see them back as a team and hopefully just reset. And with the Young Bucks, losing everything, losing the EVP ship at All In Texas, and then getting some money back, and then losing it once again, I'd like to see Jurassic Express win this match, maybe even take some of the money and throw it into the crowd, but the Young Bucks are there and they're trying to pick up some of the fallen cash. I think that'd be a funny visual to show how desperate they are. So give me Jurassic Express ultimately to win this match. And I think you need a strong tag division to continuously solidify themselves as your Cope and Cage are not there, as the tag titles are on Brodito. You get a little bit of give me Brodito versus Jurassic Express on a Dynamite card. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential for that team, the Jurassic Express, to retain these championships. But, who am I? I'm just Mark with a microphone, just an analyst. But I like Jack Perry and Luchasaurus potentially going further in the tag ranks almost instantaneously from coming back. What that means for the Young Bucks, I don't know. Because, broke-ass Young Bucks are a fun angle. But I don't know. Because if the Young Bucks win this match, I don't know where that leaves, Luchasaurus and Jack Perry after they just came back. So I'm going to stick with Jurassic Express, getting the win, throwing some cash around like Andre the Giant at WrestleMania. And, we go from there. World Championship for the women on the line. Timeless Toni Storm challenges the champion, Chris Statlander, one-on-one. Look, Chris Statlander is a dog. I have been a fan of hers since the beginning of AEW when she was, in the beginning stages of AEW as a whole. I brought up the 6 years with a throwback match with the Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks. Chris Statlander is definitely one of those throwback AEW women's wrestlers because she's been there pretty much since the beginning. And she finally got her due. She got her world championship. She did it in a fatal 4-way match, which doesn't necessarily take away from Toni Storm's title reign. Toni didn't, have to get pinned, but she was. But it was a 4-person match, so it is what it is. I liked how it was done, and I'm happy for Chris Statlander. And I think she's going to retain this title. I think she's going to retain the title against Timeless Toni Storm. And I'm not sure if that means you get a Mercedes Moné match against Chris Statlander in the future. But if Mercedes Moné, who just, by the way, passed Jade Cargill for longest reigning AEW TBS champion of all time, give me Moné and Chris Statlander, TBS title versus women's world title. Maybe at Full Gear, maybe at World's End. But I think that's where we're looking. I think that's where we're headed. And I'm going to take Chris Statlander to retain her women's championship in probably one hell of a match. In another hell of a match, I think what's going to happen here with the AEW Men's World Championship. This could be interesting. Former world champion Samoa Joe challenges current world champion Hangman Adam Page. Adam Page, of course, who won the title back in July at All In, Texas, where I was. I watched that live. His second AEW World Championship. Samoa Joe's trying to do the same, becoming a 2-time AEW World Champion. And this was kind of built as a friendly, competitive rivalry match where, Page and Joe were in a tag match and an argument ensued over the tag and who got the pin and who intruded on who. And I like that. It's kind of old school, with WrestleDream being more of an old school event in regards to celebrating St. Louis, Luthez, and Antonio Inoki with the name of the show, WrestleDream. I think this match harkens back to an old school, an older time. 2 Ring of Honor, legacy stars here, Adam Page and Samoa Joe, going at it. And I don't think Samoa Joe's going to win. I think Adam Page retains this championship in a hard-fought match. I think you might see a respect handshake here during the post-match with these two. But as I say here, as I've said on Drew and Juice, as I said on any other program you find me on, I am curious as to what would be next for Hangman and Joe, because MJF has a contract potential to cash in within a week's notice, so he could cash that in, maybe beating down whoever wins this match. What's next for Joe? I'm sure he would, as a member of the Ops, it's very conceivable to think that maybe the trios titles are, what could be the next move with him, Shibata, and Hobbs. Maybe those guys are the next the next move for Joe is to be ensconced in a feud, maybe with the Hurt Syndicate, with the Trios titles. So I think that could be next. But I do ultimately see Hangman Adam Page winning this match, retaining his championship, and then who knows? Who ultimately knows what is next for him going forward? But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, and it's very fascinating. It's kind of a babyface match, and I think Hangman is the champ for a reason, and I don't think it's to be a paper champion. I think he's got a little bit longer in his title reign to retain the belt. So Hangman Adam Page should win this match. That's who I'm picking to retain his AEW World Championship. And for the closeout match, in my not-so-humble opinion, I think this should be the main event. Darby Allin, Jon Moxley, I Quit match. And in an I Quit match where, look, I've said this, I think this is the most unpredictable I Quit match in pro wrestling since Judgment Day 2005. John Cena, JBL. Cena had just won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania the month prior, and JBL, who had lost that title to Cena, had been pretty unstoppable that whole last year. And in an I Quit match, I couldn't see either man quitting. And of course, I was ensconced in kayfabe back in 2005 as a 12-year-old. But I definitely felt, and I could still look and see that I'm not sure either of these guys are going to quit. And that's what I see with Darby and Jon Moxley. I'm not sure who's going to quit out of these two. And that's what's intriguing. Ultimately, if it's me, I would love to see Jon Moxley lose this match, move on to maybe just Death Rider stuff, maybe just going away from TV for a while. But Darby Allin, I'd like to see win this match. I'd like to see Darby versus Pac in the future. Maybe that's the next program for Darby. Pac interfered in the pre-tape segment that they had this past week on Dynamite. And, I think that could be a precursor to what we'll see. So give me Darby Allin to win this match. I have a feeling, though, regardless of the winner, regardless of the loser and the outcome, it's going to be one hell of a match, and by match, I say that loosely. I think it's going to be a brawl. Dare I say, gore fest. It's October. It's Halloween season. It's spooky season. It's horror movie time, and Jon Moxley landed on a bed of nails at All In Texas. Darby Allin has gotten hit by cars, diving off balconies. Everything imaginable has been done to Darby Allin and gone through glass. And I don't know what's going to happen. Even in kayfabe, you would have to kill Darby Allin to win this match, and I don't see that happening. I see Darby Allin. Well, even if he was dead, he wouldn't be able to quit, but he would rather die than say I quit. And that's the type of mentality I like in a competitor in one of these matches. So I'm going to take Darby Allin. I'm sticking by that. I want him to have a feud with Pac going forward. I want Jon Moxley to kind of go away. I don't know what that really, really means. I don't want him to, never come back or forget the Death Riders thing. Just kind of go away for a little bit. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Jon Moxley always picks up the ball if someone drops it in AEW or if someone gets hurt, whatever. He's always been there, and he will continue to do so as a valued leader in the AEW locker room. And, let's get Darby Allin the win. Let's kind of take Jon Moxley and push him to the shadows for a little bit, and then we'll reintroduce him down the line later on this year. Who knows what that leads to? I'm not a booker. I'm just speaking out loud, coming up with stuff, spitballing, if you will. But give me Darby Allin. Hopefully this match closes the show. I think it should close the show. Two maniacs who, again, would rather die than quit. So I'm taking Darby Allin in the I Quit match. And ultimately, I'm looking forward to WrestleDream. I got to be honest. This is a fun time of year, and I like the uniqueness of the WrestleDream show. We had the debut of Adam Copeland a couple of years ago, so that was a really, really cool like nuance to the WrestleDream show. Last year, of course, we had the return of Swerve Strickland, Adam Cole, MJF. So who knows what will happen here at WrestleDream tomorrow night in St. Louis, Missouri. But I love celebrating the past, looking forward to the future, all in the same night. So with Tony Khan and AEW, you can pretty well guarantee that they're going to succeed throughout, because this is a pay-per-view. AEW goes crazy on pay-per-view, and I am very much looking forward to seeing what happens at AEW WrestleDream 2025. So that's been the WrestleDream predictions here on the Juice Box. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. Subscribe to me on this show on YouTube at JuicySteen, and you can also listen to the show Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, via iTunes, juicysteen.podbean.com, Amazon Music, and on Spotify, where if you listen to it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts via iTunes, leave a rating and review. It helps the show grow. Hopefully you guys enjoy your weekend of pro wrestling. WrestleDream tomorrow night. 2 weeks, we've got Saturday night's main event. And then in November, Blood and Guts, Survivor Series, Full Gear. It's loaded. We've got Cena's final match in less than 2 months. One hell of a way to close out 2025. And hopefully you guys enjoy it all, and tune in next week for another edition of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.